All right, folks, what do you get if you take Nicolas Cage, combine all the crazy antics he's ever done with a serial killer movie like Silence of the Lambs, directed by Anthony Perkins' son? Do you get Longlegs? Let's talk about it. All right, so Longlegs is without a doubt the most anticipated movie of 2024, and there's not a movie that's even close to it, not by a long shot. Like the marketing for this movie has put it so high on the expectation list of 2024 that, for horror related movies at least, it is the most anticipated movie of 2024. All right, so let's talk about Longlegs. So Longlegs is a intentional throwback to the 90s serial killer movies of like true crime, like Silence of the Lambs, Zodiac Killer, things of that nature. Now, does it live up to the hype of that anticipation? For me, I'm going to say no. It did not live up to the hype of the anticipation because I went into this thinking that this movie was going to be a full out like Nicolas Cage horror movie, serial killer-esque type of thing. And that is not what this is. So if you go into this thinking that Nicolas Cage is going to be all over the place, serial killing everybody, and there's going to be a lot of blood and gore, and there's a giant mystery behind it, you're sadly going to be mistaken. But if you go into this thinking that you're going to get Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage, but a little more wild with Mikia Monroe playing a detective who's actually really good in the role. She does a really good job in this role, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But if you go into this thinking that there's going to be a lot of blood and gore and a lot of like mystery murder and you know who done it, you're going to be sadly mistaken behind this movie. All right, so what is Longlegs exactly? Longlegs is a serial killer true crime movie starring Mikia Monroe and Nicolas Cage. So Nicolas Cage stars as Longlegs in this movie, and he is a serial killer, and Mikia Monroe is a PI detective who's trying to uncover what he is doing. What else do you need to say to get people to go out to a theater other than that? Now, for me, I went into this movie thinking that this was going to be a slasher type-esque movie for Nicolas Cage going to be Nicolas Cage. And in some ways he is, and in some ways he's not. What stands out to me the most in this movie is Nicolas Cage and his acting, to be honest. So he plays the role of Longlegs really well, and the makeup that they did for him is subpar. It makes him look creepy and kind of makes him look off the chain and unique, and that something that hasn't been done before. And then you throw some of his acting methods into that, and you get a very good character. Now, with all that, let's talk about some of my positives for this movie. So I think this film is very well shot. They have a lot of like slow zooming effect and a lot of wide angle lenses that make you feel like there's something that's going to pop off somewhere on the screen, and your eyes always have to be averted somewhere else to see if you're going to catch it. Now, with that, it's set in the 90s, and there's not too much that gives you the hints that it is set in the 90s, aside from the fact that there was a picture of Bill Clinton on the wall. That kind of gave it away for me. It was like Bill Clinton as president in the police barricades. So that's what kind of gave it away for me, that it was in the 90s. So it's really well crafted for the ambiance and the time period that it's set in also. Now, I also believe that for it being in the time period of the 90s, it kind of encapsulates kind of like that true crime essence of what should be in a true crime movie. Kind of like Silence of the Lambs and Zodiac Killer, where you kind of have to use your brain to uncover what's going on with the serial killer. Because in like today's modern age movies, you get a lot of technology-based CGI. It's just like, okay, track their smartphone, that's where they're at, this is what's going on. And back in like the 80s, 90s, you actually had to use crafting puzzles and use your brain and connect the dots, and it would take a detective longer, and we make the suspense more suspenseful for like uncovering what was actually going on. And I like that a lot in this movie. Another thing that I really like about this movie is the makeup effect done for Nicolas Cage's character of Longlegs. I feel like it was really well done. It makes him look super unique, and like I said before, it makes him stand out in the movie a lot more because he really does look like this out of left field serial killer that no one's really seen before, something that's never been done before, and he goes into this role as like what you would expect, I guess, with Nicolas Cage. But he doesn't do it off the extreme level. There's a couple scenes where he kind of goes all the way to Wicker Man style of Nicolas Cage, and that I don't care for whenever he's acting. I like more of his like slow driven, suspenseful acting. But he did a really good role playing Longlegs and creating the character and making it unique and standing out with the makeup, and that I really enjoy about this movie too. And Micah Monroe, she also plays the role of Lee Harker very well. She's a PI detective who's trying to figure out what's going on with Longlegs, Nicolas Cage's character, and she does a really good job at creating a unique style of detective character because she's not like that. In your face, tell me who did it kind of detective. She's kind of like standoffish and mysterious, quiet, shy. It makes you wonder if she is connected in any way to the murders that are happening, and if she is an accomplice to Longlegs in any way, shape, or form. It kind of made me think that throughout the most of the movie. But she does a really good job with making the character her own. All right, so now on to some of my negatives. My negatives for this movie, they start with the overall hype and the buzz for the movie. Because like I said, this is the most anticipated film for horror fans of 2024. And it was made out to be like this giant ordeal of a movie that was going to be the most bloody, scariest movie you've seen all year, maybe in the last century. And it's not. It is nowhere near that. If you go into this thinking like you're going to get like the most scary film you've ever seen, and there's a ton of mystery and you don't know what's going on, and there's a bunch of gore and jump scares and things of that, you're not going to get that in this movie. But if you go into this thinking like it's a true crime kind of serial killer movie, then you might enjoy it a little more. Because I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but it's definitely not the same movie that people think it is because of the hype train that was surrounded by the trailer. All right, and then my biggest negative here is there's a lot of unanswered questions in this movie, and I don't know that's because they're setting it up for a sequel, maybe I don't know, but it doesn't answer like anything of what's happening by the end of the movie. And in the last 15 minutes of the movie, that's whenever everything starts kind of going off and you start figuring out what's happening. And it happens so fast and it happens so unanswered that you can't really piece together why Longlegs is even doing what he's doing, and the reasoning behind the murders and why he was doing the murders and why he was doing it on the dates he was doing the murders. There's just a lot of open-ended questions that I didn't get answered for me that I will probably have to go back through and watch this a couple times to understand. And I don't like that whenever you pay money to go to a theater and then like you have to watch the movie, 3 times to kind of understand what's going on. So that's kind of like my views on Longlegs and my opinions on Longlegs. Do I think it's a bad movie? Absolutely not. I think it's actually a pretty well created movie for being an original movie. I think that for it being as successful as it is for opening weekend, its box office is $22 million on a $10 million budget. So I think that is great for a horror film, but I do not think it lives up to the hype of which it was made out to be from all the initial first watch critics and all the trailers that were released. So I don't think it lives up to that hype. But I will probably watch it again myself, honestly, because I think it's that good of a movie. And I want to try and figure out all the unanswered questions that I had from seeing it in theaters. Now, I don't believe that it is one of those movies that you would rate like a 10 out of 10 and be like, this is the best horror film I've ever seen or the best true crime movie I've ever seen. But it's definitely at least a 7, 8-ish, you know, for being an original film. All right, folks, so that's all I got for you today. Remember to check my other videos out. I do a lot of shorts, and you can check them out down in the description below. But until next time, remember to check under your beds and stay safe out there.